What's up, y'all? You're now listening to the What Now podcast. I'm Dr. Spencer Dupre, owner of Empower Chiropractic.
And I am Dr. Zach Thompson, owner of Within Chiropractic. The purpose of this podcast is to document and share the experiences of two young business owners as we open our own brick-and-mortar chiropractic practices. Join along as we discuss all of our wins, our losses, insights, and the many, many lessons we learned.
As a disclaimer, none of this is ever intended to be medical, legal, or financial advice. Yo. What is up, everybody? Back at it again with the boy. You know who it is.
What it do?
Spencer and Zach in the What Now podcast. Super excited. We just posted the episode with Dr. Tony today. Go give it a listen. It's going to be fire.
After you listen to this one. But yeah, back in our super official podcast studios, the most advanced technology going on. We spent so much money to make this podcast happen. So thank you for tuning in and joining us as we continue to talk all things chiropractic business, life. A couple engaged fellows over here. So we're enjoying the wedding process. Basically just saying, yes, we like that. And then realizing that we were not supposed to say, yes, we like that. Or vice versa. So having fun with all of that. But Spence, you have been on a little bit of a cardio venture, adding in some running.
Yeah.
And, I'm training for 29 on 29, which is basically the best way to put it is I'm training for a fake Mount Everest climb. So 29,000 feet is the elevation gain of Mount Everest. And
where do you do that? Do you just okay, where are you guys doing that hike at? I don't think I've ever actually even asked you.
Yeah, so we are going to Snow Basin, Utah, which is a ski mountain, obviously in Utah. And Jesse Itzler and two other guys way back when, they're like, hey, we want to climb Mount Everest, but we love our families and don't want to risk dying, since that is a very real thing when you make that climb. And so they turned this idea into a really big thing. And so basically we will hike up a ski slope 13 times, and after that it'll equate to 29,000 feet of hiking. And so it's 13 times. It's about a 2.3 or 2.6 mile hike up one way, with moments where there is anywhere from 20 to 30% incline grade, which most treadmills go up to like a max of a 20. So that part has been fun. Training in Texas, we have found one treadmill that actually goes to 30%, my fiance and I, and it is absurd, like trying to walk up that thing. I've done it for, I want to say, I did it for 500 feet on 30%, and I was toast. But super, super excited. We're about a little less than a month out now. Nervous because I've only been in elevation once, and I didn't do that well. I puked oatmeal because I was just sick from the elevation. So a little nervous on that regard. But other than that, I think there's a really bad mindset in my head that I think it's going to be somewhat easy because you're walking. But I'll probably get my butt kicked. So
you have to wear light. Is there going to be? There's not going to be snow, right? It's in August.
There's a guy that I guess lives close, and he was there 2 or 3 weeks ago and sent us pictures that there's still snow on the mountain. So,
jeez, yeah, that's a no for me, bro.
Hopefully by August it's gone. But I mean, we don't have to like it's a really well done event. There's multiple aid stations along the way. They have some of the best vendors out there. I know, like Super Coffee and just a whole bunch of other really good like supplement group. So we'll be well taken care of. We're going to be glamping. Like, we don't have to do any of the setup or anything like that, but it's going to get dicey. It's going to get spicy. It's going to be all the things.
But so how long does it take you to do it?
So you're allotted 36 hours. And so, I mean, there's people that don't finish.
So it's like an ultra race, where you just are like it's you and like whoever you bring, but it's not like, hey, we're taking this squad of 30 people, we're going to walk up together.
Yeah. So one of the things they say, which I'm excited about, it's almost everyone's like when you ask someone that's done it what their favorite part was, they always say just the people you meet along the way. Since you're hiking 13 times, it's a little over 29 miles total. And so they say like you just get to meet some really, really interesting and cool people. But yeah, so it's my fiance and I, her parents, and then her sister and brother-in-law. So there's 6 of us, and our goal is to do it all together. Unless 1 or 2 of us wakes up. Like one thing, like with it being 36 hours, we're gonna go to sleep. And I know just after my marathon that I was awake by like 5 a.m. not because I was like well rested, but because my legs needed to move. So we've talked like if you wake up at 3 or 4 in the morning and you're like, hey, I want to go for it, put on your headlamp and go knock out a lap. But it'll be interesting for sure.
Nice.
Yeah. I thought I was gonna be done. I will say Morgan and I have been talking, and I made the commitment to go do the marathon back in January, and I thought like I was done with endurance training. And then we added the 29 and 29. So I've really only been doing endurance training all year. Like I haven't done much weightlifting. And thankfully I have some pretty well-developed muscular systems going on. So I can do like some passive lifting here and there and keep some of the gains. But I haven't like done a 4-week cycle of lifting since basically December, and I'm missing it. I'm starting to see my quads go away and my biceps are getting small. I'm like, oh, this is devastating.
Hey, lean beans, Zach.
Not quite, but yeah. So I just switched over to Hoka's. I was a big Ultra guy. If you're familiar with like barefoot shoes, Ultras are like the barefoot endurance training shoe because I got the wide toe box, 0 heel drop. And I've been training. I ran the marathon in those. But what I noticed with this incline training is my glutes should have been doing a lot of the work, but because I was in this 0 heel drop, a lot of my calf was doing the work, and I couldn't get my glutes to fire. And so I actually just made the switch over to Hoka's this week, and I did an hour hike at a 10% incline or higher, and for the first time I actually like felt my glutes engage. So no discredit to Ultra, could have just been my mental framing, but the switch to Hoka's was much needed. I just missed the toe space for sure.
Different tool for a different job.
Yeah, exactly. And I know you've been getting into some zone 2 cardio. How's that been looking? How's it been feeling on the body?
Oh, dude, it honestly has been good. I feel it's harder mentally, I think, than it is physically. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, honestly, yeah, I've been running a lot more like zone 4, 5 running when I get longer. Well, then I just realized too that I've been drinking way too much caffeine before this run, and so I have no zone 2. So I'm like, dang, I'm gonna have to go cold start if I really want to get the heart rate down. So I've been doing that. Yeah, I honestly, the endurance training, the small amount, I guess, that I've been doing like 14 to 16 miles a week.
That's pretty good, dang good.
Yeah, it's been good. I'm running at a comfortable pace, is like an 11:30 pace right now for 3 miles. It's been pretty good. We've been a month. Every Saturday, my boy Adam and I have been doing 3.2 miles. We're on a 5K every Saturday morning.
You wanted to say Terry so bad.
No, we've moved away from that. But anyway, yeah, so we've been doing that. It feels good. It's been good to hang out with him and be connected. It's been really nice to be outside, working inside and then training in the gym inside. It's just too much air conditioning in my life, and I really need that grind, that stimulus, that uncomfortableness. And I think that's what's been good about the cardio is like doing the weightlifting stuff has been really familiar. And in business, I feel like when, doing the same thing over and over and over again, and like we're seeing a lot of success with that. And so I really want to push myself physically and mentally outside of practice to where it'll really like, take me to that next level in practice. And so I've been really like striving for that discomfort, I think. So that's been good. And running has been something that I've hated alongside marketing. And so I've been running, and I just signed up for 3 marketing events. So here we go. That's where we're at. That's growth right there.
That is growth. What type of marketing events, if you don't mind me asking?
We're doing a physical. We're doing physicals. Like I am not doing physicals, but we're sponsoring the free physical event in Argyle. And then I'm trying to sponsor like the back to school bash for the elementary school. And then I'm actually looking to try to become the district sponsor. I set a budget of like 10 grand to like throw at this district sponsorship. If I can grab I'm willing to drop 10 grand on like the entire district lead sponsorship. If that's how much it is. Which I never thought that I would say that. I never thought that I would be like, yeah, I'm willing to drop 10 on a sponsorship. But I also never thought saying that I run a 5K every Saturday morning for the past month. So I think that a lot of that has gone hand in hand. And I feel like a lot of it has been very relevant. And so it's been a good push. And since I am getting married in the next 10 months, some body recomp will be nice too. I'm getting a little bit leaner. So I feel that having a little bit more mental clarity, that's been good too. And then just for like overall heart health, my family doesn't have like the necessarily like healthiest heart history. So it's just something I want to take care of.
I mean, I think we've talked about it a little bit on the show, but one thing I've really noticed over the last 7 months now, really doing endurance training, was even though I probably lost 15, 20 pounds over the last 17 or 7 months.
Yeah, dude, you look good.
Thanks, man. I wish there was some muscle there. But anyways, one thing I've definitely noticed, whether it was from the weight loss, all of which comes from the endurance training, I really, for a long time, I used to have that 2-3 o'clock crash, even with like our 2-3 hour lunch breaks that we get as chiropractors, and so it was really hard for a long time to kind of like kick back into gear come that second shift of the day. And I cleaned up the nutrition quite a bit, but also really have started to notice, like, just with that endurance training, like when I push my body for 3, 4, or 5 hours on these training days, like there is no crash anymore. And so like my brain just constantly feels ready to go. Like 3 hours of adjusting people, that could be a lot, right? Like the Wednesday after 4th of July, we saw over 50 people, and that was the most I'd seen in a day, which was amazing. And going into it, I was really nervous. I was like, my body's never been through this. I've never, pushed myself in this way. But thankfully, due to this training, I was tired at the end of the day, but I think it was more mentally, I was tired just from the amount of, patient interaction, less of the physical adjustment people. So definitely would recommend, but it's been really cool to kind of notice, wow, like I don't have that brain fog come 2-3 o'clock unless I eat, choloso or, sandwich, but
I've noticed that too, like ever since I've started running, and like honestly, it's just the fact of being able to do something repetitively and like being like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna be focused but on the task, but not be overwhelmed by the work. I think that's a big thing, because like but yeah, I've noticed that I haven't had a big crash recently either, like at 2 or 3 o'clock, unless I like go to a networking meeting and I'm like eating not great. So that's been a really interesting thing. Like I think I don't know, we talk to everybody, especially in the office, about like the physical state of your body and how it like affects your mind and your performance and your everyday, and like, hey, take care of your body. But then like when you really start to do it yourself, it like totally puts things into like a completely different perspective. And I think that comes from like, if you are in a really comfortable place and things are easy, and then if you also like in the gym too, like if you're doing things in the gym and it was easy for the longest time, dude, I was like going and getting the lift in, and I was like, yeah, I'm just going to move the body. I wasn't really like challenging myself with the weight or with the intensity. I was just kind of getting in there just to get in there, because I knew I needed to move and I needed to take care of myself.
Basically checking the box off,
Yeah. And like now I'm really like getting in there. I'm like, dude, no, I'm going to get after it. And like I wake up 6 o'clock on Saturday morning And dude, I'm ready. I'm like, yep, time to get after it. And then I'm also really prioritizing a lot of like mobility and like all this stuff, because like the last thing I want to do is like have an injury. And so I'm really prioritizing that, taking care of myself, prioritizing hydration, water, like, hydration, nutrition, mobility, mindset.
I think too, like on top of that, we talked a few episodes ago when we were talking about like our dreams, and like you were talking about the Gateway Bronco and like those types of things. And I think those are awesome. And I, have since been looking at trucks ever since I started talking about it. And like, it's like, I no longer wake up and like check Instagram. Like when I do check my phone, I'm like looking at trucks. But I say all that because we were talking on that episode about how, you would rather go to the chiropractor with the nice car, nice truck than you would to the chiropractor with, the beat up car. Not that that's like the only thing that requires you to be a good chiropractor, but I think also being in good physical shape and having those conversations. I mean, I think,
Yep.
There's definitely a shift when, patients ask, like when Thursday, Friday rolls around, like, oh, like you have plans for the weekend? It's like, yeah, I'm going to go do a 5-hour hike with my fiance, and we're just gonna walk on an incline for 5 hours. People are like, what the heck? I'm like, I push my body, that's all due thanks to chiropractic. And so they're like, oh wait, this guy is talking to me about optimization, and now he's also living it, and I get to like see that. I think it really adds just another wrinkle, if you will, into your playbook. That's not why I'm doing it. I'm doing it for the physical benefits and pushing my body, but you definitely start to notice.
Well, I think it makes you carry more weight as a practitioner. Like it means like you're actually doing the thing that you're talking about, like I talk about like, yeah, dude, I've gotten adjusted all like every week for the past 10 years. And right now I'm on team Whoop, but actually looking to switch to a Garmin for the run capabilities. But anyway, there's a couple guys in the practice that we're in a Whoop community, and so they can see all of my stats, like all of them, and I can see all of theirs. And they're like, dude, like your HRV is insanely high. Like it's like 130, 146 some days. Like I think my highest I've seen is like 166. And yeah, they're like, dang, dude, that's crazy. And theirs is like, 30 or 40. It's like, yeah, well, it's like I get adjusted and it gives me the capacity to move my body. And I don't do a lot of exercise stuff. But when I do talk to people about exercise, it's like, yeah, dude, like you should be able to do this thing called squat therapy, where you put your toes up against the wall, get all the way into a squat, like without your knees like falling back and hitting the wall. And I can do it. And so people are like, oh yeah, like and it's just different when you can talk about it and be about it.
Yeah. Cause I mean, and I think I know for me, like Jamal Frooster sticks out in my mind as someone that is constantly preaching that type of message. Like, what is your doctor doing for their health? And I mean, I've had patients that, they'll tell me, oh, I went to this doctor or that doctor. I'm like, how'd it go? And they're like, great. But one thing I noticed was like, he's telling me to eat vegetables, or they're telling me to, consume my fruit. And I look over at them and they're overweight. And clearly they're not, doing the same thing that they're recommending. And so I think as our evolution goes on, as more and more buyers and consumers become a lot more educated, that crap isn't gonna stand for much longer. And so I think by getting in as best possible shape as you can be, and actually taking a dose of your own medicine. I actually hurt my back. It was super embarrassing, but I like really messed up my back 2 weeks ago wake surfing. Like I woke up Sunday morning, I was supposed to propose, and I like could barely tie my shoes. But thankfully I did everything I knew how to do. I got adjusted multiple times, and by Monday was able to adjust people, and no one knew, like, unless I told them. And so like it was a testament to like, okay, like I do get adjusted all the time already, so I should be adaptable and should recover faster. But I also have all these tools to implement, whether it's mobility routines or it's starting to amp up or really take even more omega-3s and cut out the inflammation and things like that. Like all the things I've recommended to people, I'm like, oh wait, I got to do this now, and just add more validity.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's all the time like that. I mean, there's so many, like, you see these guys who are chiropractors, and they don't take care of themselves, but they're running all these ads and be like, oh, about your health, and like rap. I think I sent a video of this guy like rapping the other day, and it's like, it's not to rag on your rap. It's just the fact that you're talking about being healthy and like being strong. And then like, you're looking there and like, dude, we can see your belly roll like in your shirt. And like, it's not the fact that like having a belly roll is bad. I mean, like both of us were not like 6-pack Nick Bear, but
not yet,
God, that dude is a beast. Anyway, yeah. Anyway, but like, you know, you can't talk about like, you know, eat your vegetables, be clean, be healthy, you know, monitor your diet, take natural things. And then like these guys, you know, you're taking Tylenol on the weekends because your back hurts and you're, I mean, like for my dog, like, dude, our dog just had an ear infection and like we put silver and garlic drops in the dog's ear because that's what we tell people to do for their kids, you know, and like, the stuff that I have in my house are also things that I recommend people to give to their kids and stuff. Like, I'm not saying like, hey, you know, like, your kid probably should not be doing this. And then I'm going and doing that from my family and I'm doing that, you know, for those things. You got to talk about it and be about it. And I think that, just get in shape, and not necessarily that we weren't in shape, but also like pushing our body farther, asking more of the body that we, you know, we tell people all the time, like, yeah, you could just get more out of your body.
Yeah. And I think too, especially in this season that you and I are in, you know, we're immensely busy. We're immensely stressed out. I mean, there's no need to hide it that we're still a very startup mode business. And with that comes a lot of stress and a lot of meetings and a lot of figuring stuff out. And so I think too, you know, in 5, 6, however long, you know, when we're really running at a more of a capacity of, you know, we have our systems dialed and the business runs itself more so than like when we just show up. And I said all that because it's like, now when people, you know, are like, oh, I'm just too busy. It's like, you can kind of look at them and be like, well, what do you got going on? Right. Like, I know, you know, and I don't have kids. So if they tell me I have kids, I tell them I don't have kids, but you know, at some point you have to make time for your health, whether that's right now or in 10 years. And unfortunately, a lot of people wait until those 10 years. But if you're already doing that and you can show them like, look, I've been working on my health for the last 6 years. And now I just had this, you know, pretty, like I was twisted up. I looked like a scoliosis patient, like with the way my back was. And to recover as quickly as I did, thanks to, you know, really awesome chiropractors. It was really cool. It was really cool. And now to like be able to tell people like I was doing this when I was busy, and it's because I was doing it when I was busy that I had the capacity to overcome versus waiting till things were good to start my routine. And then just, you know, you'll never start if you're waiting until you're not busy.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, we're literally like, you're literally always busy. It doesn't matter if you're like month 1, like month 8, like where we're at, or like 18 years in or 40 years in, like you're always busy. Like I just had lunch with Dr. Steve, the guy that I interned with, and he's like 22 years into practice. And so I was talking to him about, you know, hey, give me some perspective. Like if you're in my shoes, like, you know, where would you be walking at now? You know, I mean, this guy, he has like he has wealth like built. And so I'm like, hey dude, like teach me your ways, bro. And he's just saying like, dude, just do more of it. And you're never going to not be busy. You just change what you prioritize, right? The phases of practice that you're in are not any different in terms of like workload, or like how much stress you have. It's always going to be there. It's one, how you manage it because you've learned how to manage, and 2, like what you prioritize is totally different.
And I think too, just to speak to one last thing on this topic, I don't want to like just ram it over your head, but especially to the Christian chiropractic student, you know, one thing I really tried to do, and this isn't like a brag, but one thing I really try to do every morning, at least weekdays, was get up and at least read a chapter or even half a chapter in the Word. And I was really convicted last night. We were at a class at our church, just kind of going over the Bible and how to read it and things like that. And I had a great example as a roommate with Quan, who I knew, like if I woke up at 6 and he woke up at 6, and if I went into to cook breakfast right away, like he's still in his room, you know, reading the Bible. And I think, you know, I heard, not to talk down, but there was a grad student at our table that was like, I just wake up, I go to class, and then I get home and I study. And so I'm like, I'm too busy to really get in the word. And like I had that moment because I'm like, I've been there. But then I also thought, like, how could I be too busy in any fact, like any aspect of life, where I don't have time to get in God's word? Like a God that sent his only son to die for me, and like just has just poured out so much grace and mercy into my life, and like radically changed me as a human being. Like I could never think, at least for me, like I it would be crazy for me to think like, oh, I'm too busy for that. Whether I have, 3, 4, however many kids we have, like multiple businesses, whatever it looks like 5 minutes. I don't have 5 minutes, you don't have to like go in and read the whole book of John, but like, if you can start diligently adding in 2 or 3 things into your routine, whether it's reading the Bible as a Christian, even if you're not a Christian, like would really encourage, start reading the Gospels. Your mind and heart will start to change. But just adding in 2 or 3 things that take, 5-10 minutes that you can do every day, whether it's a mobility routine, going for a walk, those types of things. That way, when stuff does hit the fan, you can always go back to those really simple steps.
Yeah, I mean, well, this is what this episode is obviously going to be about, because we had something totally planned. But taking care of yourself is the most, and working on yourself is the best way to work on grow your business. I think that like we have this thing that's implanted of like, I'm going to take care of my business. I'm going to take care of my business. I'm going to take care of my business. I'm going to take care of the practice. I'm going to grow the practice. And then I'll take care of myself once I get there. When are you going to get there? That's the real question, is when are you going to get there? Because like the couple episodes ago, we were talking about your dreams. If your dreams are big enough, you're never going to reach them. You're just going to continue to strive for bigger and bigger and bigger. So then you literally this is how people get handcuffed to their businesses. You get so obsessed with business and the numbers and your KPIs and are you, quote, successful because you have something to prove or whatever, that you forget to take care of yourself and you forget to prioritize yourself. But you are actually the limiting factor of that business. You are the common denominator in your house, in your business, in your marriage, in your life, in your relationship with God. You are the common denominator. And so if you're not taking care of you, if you're not prioritizing you, you're never going to actually, quote, get there. I literally just had this mom that came in. She's 36 weeks pregnant. And she's like, yeah, I'm starting chiropractic care now. Because I want prenatal care, because I did postpartum care. And I noticed that how taking care of myself made me such a better mom. She was like, I was able to literally show up for my kid, my second kid, in a completely different way than I did with my first, because I was so worried about my first baby that she's like, yeah, I couldn't breastfeed because I was so stressed out myself that I literally could not, I could not ask of my body to give what. And then so like, she's like, I spiraled and I got all these things. She's like, so now I'm really prioritizing myself, because I've realized that taking care of me is taking care of my kids. And because if I can't show up for my kids, then I cannot be the mom that they need. And that is neglecting to them. And so if you want to show up for your business, you like have to get in the word. You have to have a connection with God. You have to have a greater purpose. You have to take care of yourself. You have to eat clean food. You have to be able to move in the context of chiropractic. You have to be able to move well. You have to have a good optimized body. Your nervous system has to be flexible. You have to take care of yourself, because if you can't show up for you, then you're never going to be able to show up for your business, because it's so much bigger than just you.
And vice versa. Like it's really hard then, just from an energetical standpoint, to ask someone to start showing up for themselves. And what I would assume a lot of these practices that, people want to start, it's really hard from an energetical standpoint, especially when you're first starting out, to ask someone to commit to a rather large payment and a rather large plan to show up for themselves, even though it's good for you or good for them.
Yes.
If you're not doing it for you. And there was another point I wanted to make too, where if you think of life, and again, sorry if you don't know football or don't know sports, but if you think of life kind of as these seasons, right? Like life is cyclical. Seasons are cyclical. Like you have really great months, and then people go on vacation, or Christmas rolls around, right? Like there's just things that happen time and time again. And Spencer and I are not far enough along to notice these types of trends, because we haven't been in business for a year, let alone 5 years, where you can really start to tie these trends together. But one thing that I do want to mention is it's not always the off season. And so I don't want this whole message to get boiled into, well, I just need to take all this time for myself. If you're in the midst of it and you're in the regular season or you're in the playoffs, like you got to go. And like, it's going to be a beatdown. You might have a quote unquote injury, right? Like metaphorically, like you might feel a little worn out. But know that there's an off season coming, right? And so know that there's going to be time for rest. There's going to be time to work more on the business than you're in the business. You're going to be able to look at your game plan. You're going to be able to potentially recruit new people onto the team, like all these different things, just as you would if you were on a football team, right? Like you have your regular season, and that is a grind, right? That is showing up week after week, getting after it, heads hitting head, like you're feeling beat down, but you know that, especially if you have those goals set, you're striving for a goal, right? You're going for that Super Bowl. You're going for however many patient visits, whatever collections, right? Whatever the KPI is that you have set for that season. And then not just when you get the trophy, right? Because that's not really how business works. We're not all chasing a trophy. But there's a moment where the season almost just shuts off. And it's like, okay, now I gotta work on myself, or now I gotta, now's the time to double up on my massages a month, or now's the time to really, maybe sleep in, right? But when you're in the season, you're still waking up 5 a.m. Maybe you're still showing up to the gym. You're still doing all these things. You're going to the marketing meetings, this and that. And I just don't want this to turn into I just need to take time for myself episode, because I don't want that to be our message. But start to notice trends in your business when you can work a little bit more on yourself.
I mean, yeah, I don't think that really their off season equates to no work season. I mean, if you look at pro athletes, like the guys that are like really at that level, like they use the off season to actually put in more work than they do in the regular season. Like,
exactly.
If you follow back, well, I'm a huge Pelicans fan, and Herb Jones, like, is one of our guys.
Don't do the Zion off season.
I'm not talking about that. Anyway, Herb Jones, one of the guys that he's in his third year, and he actually, his contract expired. And so instead of him worrying about the money and worrying about his contract and worrying about all this stuff, he literally was like, send the DocuSign. He's like, I got shots to get up. Yeah. And it's the off season, and like Brandon Ingram, some of our best players like work the hardest in the off season. They work on themselves. Like Brandon, he's like, yeah, took a week off, and he's like, I'm renting a place. He's like, I'm doing 2 days for the next 4 months in the off season. Yeah. So the off season is not you're just not in game. It doesn't mean you're not working less hard. Mm-hmm. It's just you're working on different things.
Yeah, and I think it's more of a working on the business from a business standpoint. Like for us, we're noticing like we go to reschedule or schedule someone for the next week, and it's like, oh, I'm on vacation, and you start to hear that a few times. You're like, oh, July is summer. That's when people go on vacation with their kids, right? But we've had things, and especially as Spencer and I both, we take in a lot of information from podcasts and from books. And in the regular season, it's hard to implement those, right? It's hard to implement that when things are going really well. And now that things are slowing down, it's a really good, at least for me, I'm taking it as just a sign from God that, okay, now's the time to implement a lot of those ideas that I've accumulated. And now I can start to pour them out during a slower season, if you will. And we're adding in a foundational movement class into our like monthly offerings, where we're just going to be once a night, at least to start. Once a month, we're going to be doing a foundational movement class that go over just the basic ways to pick something up, right? And we're adding in a kind of like a little mobility space into the office. We're starting to tweak our systems in which ways we like leave voicemails, the way we handle phone calls, or our CRM, like all these different things that we just haven't had time in the last 2 or 3 months to really implement. Now we have this time where it's like, okay, I gotta put this stuff into motion now, because if I wait another 6 months when things ramp up again, I'm going to forget, and it's just going to be a lost opportunity.
Yeah, that's kind of where we're at too, is like we've kind of like capped out our space, and like whenever you like kind of zoom out of our practice, you can kind of see like, all right, what's our next bottleneck? And it's not really our systems, it's not our message, it's not our internal marketing. Like we get a lot of internal referrals, which is nice. And we're not I'm not actually going to turn on the marketing machine until we move into our new space, because once we start turning that wheel, like we really like won't physically have the space like to hold these people. Like our fire rating is for like 7, and we'll have like 18 people in here at one time. And yeah, so that's like what we're doing right now is like we're prepping for this next like really big push, like come August and like September, grand opening, bigger space, looking to hire an associate. We're trying to make our second hire by the end of next year, hire an associate by the year after. So like into 2024, if you're looking for a job and you love kids and you're super confident in your skills, hit me up. But that's kind of what we're looking at to do, right? So we're doing like a lot of preparatory phase, a lot of refinement. I just took a week off because we've seen a lot of growth, and I'm getting ready to get charged up to do this. I mean, the thing is like people in your practice too, like what I've learned from this whole take a week off thing is that they actually really understand. Because I mean, the same way that they look at you and they're like, hey, I'm not going to be here for 2 weeks, I'm going out of town. You can do the same thing, and they're like, yep, that guy is just as human as me.
Yeah.
And that's what I really like. And so it's been really cool
you might have one or two people like, and it's like, okay, well,
dude, out of all like 139 people that we see, not one person was like, dang, you're really not going to be here. Literally everyone was like, you really need it. You work super hard. And I was like, that feels actually good to be like, to acknowledge that.
So you have that acknowledgement,
Yep. And for people to come back and be like, yeah, I'm super excited to keep going. And not one person missed. Like yesterday was our first day back. Not one person was like, oh man, actually people were like, hey, I'm going to double up. I know I missed this appointment, so I'm going to come in twice this week. I'm like, that's nice.
That's dope. Yeah. Well, this has been super, super awesome. Not even remotely what we thought we were going to talk about, but shout out endurance training and all that fires up in our minds. Thank you so much for listening. We really appreciate it. If you gained any bit of value, whether it was one thing or everything we said really resonated, send it to a friend, send it to a buddy that could really gain similar knowledge, because as you grow, you want to be growing alongside some really awesome people. So share it with a friend, share it on your story, whatever it might be greatly appreciated. And keep pushing away, keep grinding.
That's right. Make sure you're surrounded with people who are willing to push just as hard as you. And thanks for listening to the What Now podcast. We'll see you guys next week. Peace
Out.